for a while there, when I was actively wrestling and when I was coming in, it was the Attitude Era, and you had like the Monday Night Wars, and it was these huge brands, and then it became just all like WWE for a while, and a little bit of salt and pepper with TNA and like maybe Ring of Honor or something like that. But now wrestling is gotten back to another point, or wrestling, pro wrestling entertainment, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it pro wrestling. I know it gets old, but I keep saying it. But now you got like all this content out there. You got SmackDown, NXT, the Raw brand. You got AEW, Dynamite. You got AEW Dark. You got AEW Elite Matches, I think. I can't keep track of it. Now, you got to forgive me because I'm not going to come on here and I can't talk a lot of stuff in my opinion either way, because I'm really trying to catch up on everything, and there's so much stuff out there to watch. All right, so when I'm watching wrestling now with WWE, AEW, and all the other brands going on, I point out basics and foundations when I was talking about Miro, right? And how proud I was in that match and where he was and stuff. So the difference that I see is like in WWF and WCW, when it was in the prime of the Monday Night Wars and stuff, is all the wrestlers had like 20 years experience. Very few of us were like 5 years in, get a job, unless they were like a big monster and stuff. Now, it's such a demand for wrestlers and everything's so hot again that I think people are on TV without the territorial experience. Like going into like WWF and WCW back in the day, there was territories prior. There was Memphis, Stampede. And a lot of those guys worked all that, even though they were faded out by like the late 90s or late 80s. The late 80s, they were faded out and it became like, WWF and then NWA. But the guys had that experience. They were seasoned on the road. They learned. They had a feel for crowds. They knew what to do. It was all feel. Nobody guessed. It was action, reaction, action, reaction. Now, wrestling, when I'm watching it, this current day product, and there's so much content out there, and there's so much stuff to watch. And when I watch it, it's just I feel kind of bad. Like, I feel bad for the current wrestlers because they weren't able to get that experience before they get in front of a camera and be able to perform. I just wish that the young women and kids today could have experienced like there. I started in '87 and I caught the tail end of that stuff, but I was so blessed to be able to go work 6 nights a week, 7 nights a week in Memphis and Puerto Rico and work all these guys that have been working 20 and 30 years prior to that and learn under them and learn what to do in certain situations and how to react. Like I said, it's action, reaction. And I just feel really, really bad that they never got that, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. It's just where things are today. It's a video game generation. You can go in there and if you watch video games, a little 5'6" girl could come in there and kill 6 squad soldiers or something, like with ninja moves and stuff like that. So this is what this generation grows up with. But this is also where when I'm watching wrestling, it seems that video games and stuff have an influence on what wrestling is now. Granted, the wrestlers aren't 6 foot. Like when I started out in wrestling, I was 6'2", 220 pounds. They told me, you're going to be a junior heavyweight. That's it. You're going to be lucky to get past that or do anything besides getting your butt kicked, because everybody was monsters. Now, with the unfortunate like the dark side of the ring stuff with all the drugs and the negative things, one positive has come out of that, and that's drug testing. So people should hopefully live longer, but the size of the wrestlers have changed. And that's not just because of the drug testing, but it's because of that. It's a video game generation too. So you don't have to, when you're growing up playing these video games and stuff, and I don't play them, I'm guilty. I had an Atari. I played Pong. That was Pong and Space Invaders, I think. And then when I went to the arcade, it was Centipede. So it wasn't very complicated for me. It was Centipede and the pinball machine. So it really wasn't into the video games now, but I do have kids and I have grandkids and I'm around a lot. And the students I train now, they're like in between stuff in their cars or in the locker rooms, they're playing video games and stuff. So that is a very strong influence, I believe, in today's wrestling. So and how things have come together. So with the size changing, they're more acrobatic, they're more mobile. When just a few would do that back in my day, back in the Attitude Era, everybody worked really, really hard and tried to out-top each other. I'm not saying it was anything like that. They were doing crazy stuff they shouldn't have been doing too, but now it's become more acrobatic and gymnast-like, and the sizes have changed and stuff, and then the mentality of things have changed. But I just wish, what I'm getting to is, I just wish that these guys could have had the pleasure. And it might not have felt like a pleasure when I was doing it, but I'm so grateful for it, because it was all learning lessons, just to work every night and not to go in there. And the only thing you knew is like who was going to win or lose. You like, hey, I'd work Jerry Lawler. I don't think he's ever even called the finish to me before the match. I'd just go out there, King, and I would sit there like waiting. King, and he goes, yeah, kid. And then he'd go off and watch like a Cleveland Brown game or something on a Monday night. We're in the Coliseum. I'm like, because I would watch, like, I trained in the dungeon and trained with Boris Malenko. Then I covered it before. Then I trained in the dungeon and then went off in Sika by this time. I hadn't gone off in Sika yet, but I had been in the dungeon by this time, which is a very fast style, and I've been to Japan, so I like that thing. So I had to, when I went back to Memphis, I had to learn how to like slow it down and trust my instincts and go back to action, reaction, and feel, not guessing, feeling what's going on with the crowd, the building itself, and the person I'm working. So I just think they really, really missed out on something super special. And when I'm watching the shows and stuff like that, that's what I'm talking about when I say, when I say a feel, a lot of times I go, man, they really need to feel things, but they didn't really get a chance. They just kind of throw it in the fire and they're trying to figure it out. So you can't point fingers at them and go, oh, that was like whatever, and put this harsh opinion on them. I mean, you can have your opinion. Everybody has an opinion, and you might not necessarily agree with everybody's opinions, but you got to remember this too, everybody has an opinion and everybody has an asshole. Sometimes assholes have opinions, and it's what it is, you get through it. But I love everything. So, with that being said, a lot of people ask me, what's your favorite brand that's out? Is it NXT? Is it AEW? Is Dynamite? Or is it The Dark? Ring of Honor or TNA or whatever's going on there. I'm going to say that I'm not current in the last 3 months. I'm trying to catch back up. But prior to that 3 months, like right in the middle of COVID or whatever, the pandemic and everything, I'm going to go with, I'm going to, believe it or not, this might shock a lot of you, because it didn't make a lot of sense either, but I really liked MLW. I liked MLW. And it's, maybe a little bit because I trained Jacob Fatu, maybe, but no, I just really like it because I would see a lot of guys that I worked out there currently on the indies and all getting a chance, and they're all hungry and they're all trying to prove something where they all kind of had an equal shot at something where WWE, it's a food chain, there's a system there. And, AEW, it's kind of like you look at it and you go, well, there's somebody's friends and this one's friends. So I don't know. It seemed like MLW had like more of a fighting chance to prove something that you belong there, and this and this and that. Not that AEW is bad, and not that I don't agree with the WWE stuff, but I think my favorite brand, I got to say, right now, and it could change tomorrow as I'm watching all this current stuff, it could absolutely change, but I like MLW. Wow, with all that being said, I sure can ramble. I didn't think I could ramble a lot, and time starts flying by. We're going to have to get to Pandora's Box here in a minute, which is really cool because Pandora's Box is a thing where we do, random. My producer just goes and looks. People send in, so please send in your Q&A, whatever you want to call it. You send in your questions, and I'll try to answer them. They're randomly picked out of a box. So we're talking about all those basics and feeling bad that people weren't able to experience, like territories, this and this and that. Now, if you're looking to get into wrestling and stuff like that, you want to research your schools and your trainers and stuff like that. It's very important because like there's so many people out there that have schools like that they really. I'm not saying you had to be a WWE superstar or top of your game in NWA, and I mean, because it's stuff like that to be a trainer. But it should have been currently like and still involved in wrestling and throughout all the eras and years. Like I mean, you can only be 10 years in, but you should research that. Like myself, I never really had a great run, but I was consistent in wrestling since '87, in different territories. Been there, done that. Not saying I did it well. But I made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes would help me pass along knowledge. And with all that being said, so research your schools. But with that being said, I think wrestling schools, and I'm a big believer in this, because you got Al Snow, tremendous. You got Lodi. Lodi, believe it or not, I just seen Arn Anderson's son come on AEW, and Lodi, I believe he was training with Lodi. I don't know if you remember Lodi and Lenny from the Flock and stuff like that. But he's tremendous, got a tremendous mind for wrestling. But I really think, and I'm not saying this because I had a school or I'm trying to do this, but I really believe wrestling school should be like monitored, like I don't want to say unionized, but I really believe that they should be checked for license, insurance, and have proper trainings and proper facilities, and not just like fly-by-night things. Although, like, I trained with, I started with Global, which was a big company. I ended up in the backyard, but I was training with Boris Smolenko, who's been around the block and then some, so I learned. But I just think there's so many wrestling schools out there. Now I'm talking to all the young ladies and gentlemen that are thinking about getting into this industry. I think you should just, be careful. And I really think these schools should be like monitored and unionized or something, whatever it is, because you got great places like Al Snow has got TV, and going on. He's really doing great things. He's been there, done that. And that's a tremendous place if you're in the Ohio Valley area in Kentucky or stuff like that. But these schools should really, really, really like, it just drives me crazy when I see people take advantage of people and just take their money, and then they, just really don't teach them anything. They go out there and they have no basics, no foundations. They get out there, they're running the ropes, oh my goodness, I've seen people running the ropes in their third training session in some places. Where I think how I structure a school, it's like you'll spend 3 weeks on pads, like have a like the last school I was at, we had 2 rings. Well, 3 rings at the end, but there was 2 rings. Well, I'm going to go off a 2-ring structure. We could even go off a 1-ring structure, but you got a rolling area. So you can spend from 3 weeks to 3 months on that floor, just learning your rolls, this and that. Then we'd move into a 16-foot ring, and you would spend another couple months learning how to take your falls and apply the rolls in there, and the bumps and all the things that's going to keep you safe. Like the only difference between me and some other people was that I was trained well with my basics to bump. So I'm here 34 years later telling people what to do and how to do it and showing them because I learned it the right way too. So my body survived in here. Yes, I've had some broken necks and this and this and that. But I still get in there and I'll bump every night of the week, and I'm still wrestling on weekends because of that foundation. So when we teach that, then we move up if you mastered all that, you mastered like the headlocks, the wing locks, the top wrist locks, the front face locks, double legs, single legs, firemen's, double wrist lock takeovers. You master all that, and you learn to be able to do a 20-minute match right there without even breaking contact and tell a story. Then you take them to an 18-foot or a 20-foot ring. Well, we had an 18-foot ring. And then I would teach you ropes, right? You get in there and you learn the ropes. And then you would learn putting some stuff together. And then by then you had already had the confidence because you know how to wrestle. So that's all the gravy. And then boom. So when people come in to the schools I'm running, I say, you give me an extra 6 months, I'll save you 6 months on your career. And I'm not saying that cocky. I just want them to be patient and trust the process. And it's a great process. So, with all that being said and everything, and just really research your wrestling schools. They should be monetized and not be able to take advantage of people out there, but they're not. So being that they're not, ladies and gentlemen, you do your own research, and if you have to drive an extra hour, then drive that extra hour. It's going to be worth the training. Trust me, even if it's an extra 2 hours. I have students that were driving 5 hours from Jacksonville. So really, really be careful on your choices and make some wise choices. So, okay, done with my salty rants. That's the old salty guy being salty, but it's not. It's really, it's just me really trying to look out for wrestling and you. Like I want wrestling to be better. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad right now, but I want everybody to be good. I want everybody to understand it. I want everybody to love what they're doing and to know why they're doing it, when they're doing it, and how to do it. So, all right.